Welcome to the Provider's Report, where we delve into the world of value-based healthcare. Our mission is to empower healthcare providers with the knowledge and tools they need to deliver exceptional patient care. Each episode, we explore best practices, innovative strategies, and real-world examples of how to achieve the highest standards in patient communication and outcomes. Join us as we transform the future of healthcare, one conversation at a time.
Welcome to episode 31. Today we are discussing the timeline of a nursing student and also the transition that follows post-training. Honestly, this topic is really confusing to most of us outside of the nursing profession, but it's really something that we should all understand to some degree. Most of us either already are working with nurses or we're going to at some point in our careers. So it's pretty important that we understand who they are, what they do, and how awesome they are, obviously. So here to set the record straight is Brianna Boone. She's a medical ICU nurse in Minnesota, and we actually went to undergrad together literally like a decade ago, which is amazing. Also, a pro tip, she was actually featured in another episode of BDP back in season 2, which was episode 21, where we talked about grief and loss and how we can overcome those things as a healthcare provider and let them make us even better. If you haven't checked that one out yet, add that to your to-do list that I know all of you have, just like me. Hey everyone, we are here with Brianna Boone, who is a registered nurse, and we're going to be talking about the massive transition from nursing school into your first day on the job. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So to get started, go ahead and just dive into your background for us. Let us know what department you're in, what hospital you're working at, and just kind of everything you're doing right now in the world of nursing.
All right. Well, my name is Brianna, or I go by Nurse Bree. I am a medical ICU nurse. I have only been a medical ICU nurse for about a year and a half. I work at North Memorial Hospital, which is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I actually got my medical ICU nurse job right out of nursing school. And yeah, I love it.
That's great. Awesome. So for some of our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with the nursing path, what is like a traditional educational journey for a nursing student? And then what avenues can people take traditionally when they're done?
Okay. So this is actually like a loaded question. So
I know a lot of people are confused by this question.
Yes. So traditionally, there's two like main pathways, I would say. The first one would be to get your associates, which is just a 2-year program. You can do it at most community colleges or technical colleges. There you would get an RN. In Minnesota, most RNs would have to start somewhere like a clinic or like a nursing home before they go to a hospital. Again, that's different in different states. A BSN, which is a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, you do a 4-year program. For myself, I did a post-baccalaureate program. So I got my 4-year degree in something that isn't nursing, which is actually kinesiology. And I had to have specific prereqs, which I did because I had a science degree. And then I did 2 semesters of nursing school. So I just went straight into nursing school and did 2 semesters. And mine was actually an accelerated nursing school. So it was the 4 semesters just straight through. So I was done in 14 to 16 months, something like that. And then, so jobs you can get are endless. You can work in a hospital, and that can be anywhere from like bedside nursing that you think of, like the emergency room, med surge, or ICU, things like that. Or you can work like in clinics. You can work home care. You can do at-home jobs like with insurance companies, public health. You can work in labor and delivery. You can, there's endless jobs. And like now that COVID hit, I looked at home nursing jobs, and it's like, I had no idea I could do all these things with my degree.
Yeah. And I even have some nursing friends who are making like triple their salary because of COVID demand.
Yeah.
A lot of them are traveling too. That's another option. If you really love traveling, you don't have anything that ties you down, there's travel nursing too.
Amazing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
amazing. If I didn't have a husband and a kid, that would be so fun to travel and work like that. I love it. Well, very cool. So when you were a nursing student, so during that accelerated time, was there anything that you had to do to kind of prepare for what was lying ahead? Did you have to read any books or study, for a major exam? Was there anything that you had to do or learn before you got to your first job?
Before I got to my first job, so once I got my job, so like I said, I worked in the ICU. We had an intensive training program. So we had to do what was called Health Streams Epic training. But then we had to do another set of training that went through every single system in depth. And so I would have one day of work, a whole work schedule day, 8 hours, just to do my online modules.
Wow.
So we did get one textbook that we could use as a reference, but it basically was NCLEX prep all over again.
Yeah.
And just doing that, but ICU with ICU mindset.
Do most departments have something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a friend that I graduated with that actually started at my hospital, but she was in the float pool for med surg, and she had to do something like that. But it was more med surg based. And then say you work on a stroke unit, you would learn a lot more about strokes. A trauma unit, you would learn a lot more about stents and casts and trauma and things like that. Yeah, it's a lot.
Very cool. Yeah, that's great.
I know you mentioned that your major was a little bit different. You didn't directly go into nursing from the get-go. Is there anything that you experienced outside of nursing prep that you feel like has helped prepare you for this job?
So I originally thought I was going to be a PA. So I became a nursing assistant in order to get clinical hours, patient contact hours to be a PA. So I worked at a nursing home, and then I worked at my job as a nursing assistant, and that helped tremendously. Not only to prepare me for my hospital, because I didn't work in my unit, but I worked at my hospital, but also just bedside manner. I think that being a nurse, and being a nurse, I think having the nursing assistant background, it really helped with simple things like lifts and patient transport and things like that you don't really think about, you don't really learn in school. You kind of just do it hands-on.
Yeah.
Plus, then you understand the people that you work with too. You understand your fellow employees, and you can probably sense when they're struggling because you've done that job. I know for me, obviously our office structure is different. I don't work in a hospital, I work in private practice, but before I went to school, I worked as a front desk associate and as an assistant as well. And I always pay attention to what's happening at the front because I've been there. I know what it's like. So it might not look overwhelming to someone else, but I can see that someone is struggling or needs help. And that probably makes you so valuable as an employee too, that you can understand the whole landscape, right, of patient care, because I know there are a lot of different units between nurses, nurse assistants, doctors, everybody. And obviously when we work together, it's the best thing possible for the patient. So
I agree. Completely agree.
Now, experience before obviously is huge. Would you recommend to anyone in their undergrad right now that they do jobs like you did, or would you recommend anything else to help kind of prep them in the way that those things prepped you?
I would recommend to anybody to be a nursing assistant. If you're in nursing school, it's very hard to get a full-time job during nursing school. I wouldn't recommend that. If there's any way that you could be casual and pick up every once in a while, because studying is very important. If you can make it work, yes, I think it's so valuable to do something like a nursing assistant or a tech job. I have a friend that worked in a cath lab and she was just a tech, but she just saw so much that she's my go-to when it comes to anything that has to do with the heart, because she was a tech in the cath lab and she just absorbed all of that. So if you can get your hands on really any healthcare job, I think it would help. It definitely would help.
That's awesome. So you're in ICU, you said.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up there or decide that that's what you wanted to do?
So I always was like an adrenaline junkie. So I knew that I wanted either ICU or emergency department.
Yeah.
And then we had a clinical in labor and delivery, and I fell in love with labor and delivery.
No.
Well, labor and delivery is very selective. So I applied to like one or two jobs, but I knew that my specific hospital was hiring for an ICU position. And I kind of just like finagled my way in. I figured out who the manager was of the unit,
I love it.
and I messaged HR and emailed the unit manager, and basically emailed both of them my resume, like introduced who I was, said how interested I was in the position, and like almost begged for a interview because most nursing students will know that it is kind of hard to get a job in the ICU like right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
But since I was able to take that initiative, my now manager was just like blown away by it. And so every time I have a student, I'm like, okay, like let's go meet my manager. Like we got to get comfortable with you doing this, because if you want a job here, like you got to ask.
I love it. I love it. So how did you, I mean, obviously you knew you were an adrenaline junkie, which is so funny that you say that, because all of my friends in emergency med or ICU say that same thing. How would you, what kind of advice would you give to a student that is like, I kind of like everything right now. I don't know what to pick, because I feel like everyone goes through that at some point where you have no idea truly what department you want to end up in. I know me personally, I had no idea that I was going to work with veterans or, really, really be focused on chronic pain. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, oh, I'll work with kids. So what would your advice be for how to kind of channel that inner self and find out where your passion might lie?
I would say don't. I would say just apply anywhere and everywhere, because I think that the students that are like me, who are like very one track minded, they are the ones that struggle the most. Like I lucked out and I did get what I wanted, but a lot of students don't. And then they're completely heartbroken, and then they don't like their first job. And it's like, you want to be proud of your first job. So if you are okay, if you're like, I just want to be in a hospital, I don't care where, and you apply everywhere, you're most likely going to get a job. Or you're like, I don't want to be in a hospital, but I feel bad about it, I'd rather be in a clinic. Do that. Like,
yeah,
I would say just start anywhere, because I think I was lucky because I landed on a unit that I ended up loving, but a lot of nurses don't. And that's what's the beauty in nursing, is that you can change, you can learn from that unit that you're on, and like see the sights and decide later. You don't have to know right after graduation.
I love that you said that, because the times are kind of over now where your first job is where you stay for 40 years.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was kind of a thing. And everyone would always kind of brag about, a lot of middle-aged people are like, oh, I've been there for 30, 40 years, which is awesome, because back then that was a really good thing to do, but it's just not the case anymore. I don't know. It wasn't for me, Annabelle.
Yeah, nope, not at all. There was not just one track. I was actually halfway through like admissions to vet school, which I'd wanted to do since I was 9 years old. And then I was like, actually, I don't want to live out of a pickup truck for the rest of my life and be called out into the snow to help horses, foal. It's just not quite what I want. So I had to search inside myself and try a bunch of stuff and take a bunch of extra classes and try some fun, different jobs. And then sometimes your career finds you. Yours found you pretty quickly, it sounds like. But yeah, I think our paths are scribbly,
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I wanted to be a PA at first and applied for PA school, kept getting waitlisted, kept getting rejected. Literally, I applied to one nursing school and was like, I'm just going to do this just to pass time. I was literally at work, just applied and got in, and it started 2 weeks later. So it's like I had to make that decision if I wanted to apply again for PA school or if I was going to go to nursing school. I was like, I'll go to nursing school. And now I'm like, I couldn't even see myself being a PA.
Yeah.
I love nursing so much. And like a lot of nurses graduate school and like at like 21, 22. I was 26, 27. So yeah, kind of windy road, but like it happened for a reason, like I love what I do. Definitely.
Yeah. You're where you're supposed to be, literally.
Do you find graduating at that age versus other ages, whether it be younger or older, do you find that there's a difference in perspective when it comes to patient care, like with your colleagues?
Yeah, actually, I feel like the older nurses are the ones that are more like me, where they aren't so one track minded, where they're like, if this doesn't work out, that's fine. Like, I already know my whole life really hasn't worked out in that one track mind. So if this one job doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Versus like the younger nurses are like, I got to do this exact linear scope of events. After like 1 year at this unit, I have to go to this unit, and then I have to go to this unit. And I think older nurses also, they relate to patients more usually, just because our patients, especially in the hospital, or at least for me, are usually older. So like for me, I'm 28, but I get told all the time that I look like I'm 21. So a patient quickly is like, how old are you? Are you able to do this job? And then when I tell them, then they're a lot more comfortable with me. So like, I feel bad sometimes for younger nurses, because it's like, we kind of like get talked about by patients sometimes for being young. And it's like, but I did the schooling, like,
Yeah.
and
Oh, girl, we understand.
Oh, we do. Yeah.
Every week.
It's frustrating. I almost wish we could walk around with our credentials like here. Like it only matters when you're seeing someone over the age of 50 who really cares.
I just want a beard. If I had a beard, I would look older. It would be fine.
You would think the masks would help, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They really didn't.
It's so true. Men with beards have it easier in that world.
Yeah, that is true.
I love it. Well, to wrap up this topic, Bri, are there any current resources that you use as a nurse just to kind of help you keep going and stay this passionate? I know me personally, there are several chiropractic podcasts I listen to and research podcasts, and a few authors I like to stay on top of. And then I have quite a few motivational podcasts I listen to as well. So for you, what kind of gets you fired up to go to work on a Monday? What guides you through your weeks?
I love podcasts. I do listen to like 1 or 2 nursing podcasts, but most of them are like just normal self-development type of podcasts. I am subscribed to what's called the AACN, which is a network of critical care nurses. So I get like a magazine with that, which I get like up to date research on.
Awesome.
I also am working on my critical care RN. So CCRN, it's like a certificate you can get. It's not like I get paid anymore or anything. It's just kind of like another test you can take. But the prep is what is really driving me. Like, I'm learning so much in the prep. It's kind of like going to school again, but just more in depth, which that drives me quite a bit. And then I love healthcare in general. So like learning anything, even about like nutrition or like working out or like chiropractic, like one of my best friends is a chiropractor, and like learning just tips and tricks like that. I think all of it like translates through healthcare. So that really does drive me to like bring it to work with me.
I love it. Do you happen to know the names of those 2 podcasts that you mentioned?
So one of them is called The Selfie Show, which is more of like a bantery type of show. It's 2 nurses. Another I listened to is called The Traveling Nurse, which is an owner of a traveling nurse company. And he kind of like gives tips and tricks of travel nurses, because I kind of want to be a travel nurse, but like can't really decide. So they kind of give me tips, like get me fired up a little bit. Those are my 2 main ones. There's also one called Good Nurse, Bad Nurse that I listen to every once in a while, which is also kind of a bantery one. They're more fun. They're not like super. So they'll talk about like good, like intermittent fasting versus bad keto workouts or something like kind of 2
almost like
opposite views. Yeah. And but then they'll interview 2 different people, and it's not like they're taking sides or anything, but you kind of just get like the overall education of both, and
that's really cool.
I love that, because I feel like healthcare is that it's not black or white. It is a discussion, and they're usually either the answer somewhere in the middle, or they're both right. It just depends on the patient. So I love that.
Yeah, I liked it
Really
too.
cool.
So
Very cool. Well, we will be taking all of those resources and passing it along to our listeners. And thank you so much for coming on and talking about your transition and how other young nursing students or young nurses can take your advice and just shoot for the moon. So thanks for joining us, Bree, tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So many great plugs to mention from this episode, guys. So for all of those links, head to our show notes at betterdoctorproject.com. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. Let us know what you think of our show and how it's helping you in practice. Whether you're a nurse or not, I hope you learned more about a very, very prominent field in healthcare today. If you're a nursing student or already a nurse, thank you for all you're doing and will continue to do in the future. Now more than ever, we really must thank our nurses for every single thing they do day in and day out to better our healthcare system.
Thank you for tuning in to the Providers Report. We hope you found today's episode valuable and inspiring. To stay updated with our latest episodes, subscribe to our podcast wherever you like to listen. For more resources and continuing education opportunities, visit our website. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our patients and truly set a standard for value-based healthcare.